Apple is about to make the most controversial design choice in iPhone history, and honestly, looking at these first-party dummy units, I am genuinely terrified for our wallets. Everyone thought Cupertino was playing it safe, letting Samsung, Google, and OnePlus battle it out in the foldable arena, while they perfected the technology. But the latest supply chain movements from Foxconn suggest Tim Cook is ready to pull the trigger on something called the iPhone Ultra Fold, or simply the iPhone Ultra. Mark Gurman just dropped a massive report indicating this isn't just a concept anymore. Apple has reportedly finalized the structural chassis. When you hold this form factor against a standard iPhone 17 Pro Max, the sheer scale of it hits you instantly. It completely throws away the traditional, tall, narrow candy bar aspect ratio we see on the Galaxy Z Fold series. Instead, Apple is leaning into a much wider passport-style footprint. Think less like a remote control and more like a premium leather wallet. It feels substantial, wide, and admittedly a bit jarring if you are used to slipping a sleek Pro Max into your pocket. Let's talk about the physical data because Ross Young just backed up some wild display metrics from the Taiwanese supply chain. The outer cover screen is coming in at a surprisingly compact 5.3 inches diagonally. Because Apple is keeping the bezels symmetrical and slightly chunky for impact resistance, the usable estate feels like a throwback to the iPhone mini days, just stretched out horizontally. Flip the device over and the rear camera module looks stripped back. We are looking at a dual camera layout housing a primary wide and an ultra-wide sensor, completely ditching the dedicated telephoto prism lens. Now, before you lose your mind over an ultra-branded phone missing an optical zoom lens, DigiTimes reports that Apple is relying heavily on computational cropping. They are aiming for an aggressive 10 times to 15 times digital crop out of a new 48-megapixel primary sensor, claiming the optical performance matches a native lens. I will absolutely believe that when I see it in real-world testing because digital zoom usually falls apart the moment the sun goes down. The structural engineering gets even weirder when you look at the button layout and ergonomics. According to structural schematics leaked via Makotakara, the volume rockers are completely gone from the side profile. Apple is moving them to the top frame of the chassis. The internal logic here is that you can orient this device in any direction, much like an iPad Pro, without accidentally triggering volume changes when it is propped up on a desk. Down on the side frame you get a redesigned power button alongside a noticeably thinner, recessed capacitive capture button. The thickness of the main titanium frame when fully opened is an astonishing 4.5 millimeters. To put that into perspective, that makes the unfolded frame thinner than the upcoming iPhone Air chassis, which sits right around 5.6 millimeters. When you fold the Ultra shut, it stacks up to roughly 11.4 millimeters. It is definitely thicker than a standard Pro Max, but it avoids that awkward wedge-shaped gap that plagued early foldable competitors. Now, the real magic happens when you open the device to reveal the 7.3-inch flexible OLED panel. The ELEC out of South Korea reports that Apple has finally solved the dreaded display crease by utilizing a proprietary fluid-filled hinge mechanism that gently coaxes the glass into a teardrop shape inside the frame. Looking closely at the internal panel, you will notice a complete absence of the dynamic island. There is no massive cutout and surprisingly, there is no Face ID array anywhere on the glass. Instead, Apple is bringing back Touch ID, embedding a high-speed capacitive sensor directly into the top power button, identical to the iPad Air implementation. Ming-Chi claims this decision was entirely driven by thermal management and component stacking. Cramming complex true-depth camera projectors into a 4.5mm folding frame proved to be a manufacturing nightmare that wrecked factory yields. Under the hood, this thing is an absolute powerhouse, running on the unannounced A20 Pro silicon built on TSMC's highly anticipated 2nm fabrication process. Moving down to 2nm means extreme transistor density, lower thermal output, and unprecedented power efficiency. This silicon will work alongside TWO new coprocessors, the N1 neural engine for localized Apple Intelligence processing, and the mysterious C2X wireless chip. This new wireless architecture is rumored to unlock true, bidirectional satellite connectivity. We are not just talking about emergency SOS texting anymore. The goal here is global web browsing, data syncing, and low bitrate music streaming directly from low Earth orbit satellites when you are entirely off the grid. To power this massive wireless array, Apple is squeezing a dual-cell battery into the split chassis, offering a combined capacity between 5400 and 5800 mAh. Combined with the efficiency of the 2nm chip, this could easily be a true two-day daily driver. The massive question remains whether consumers will willingly pay the inevitable, eye-watering Apple tax for a first-generation foldable. Are you actually willing to trade your Pro Max for a wider, folding footprint, or are you sitting this generation out until the technology matures?